The Yamato-class battleships were two battleships of the Imperial Japanese Navy, Yamato and Musashi, laid down leading up to World War II and completed as designed. A third hull laid down in 1940 was converted to an aircraft carrier, Shinano, during construction displacing 72,000 long tons at full load. The completed battleships were the heaviest ever constructed. The class carried the largest naval artillery ever fitted to a warship, 9 18.1-inch naval guns, each capable of firing 3,220-pound shells over 26 miles. Due to the threat of American submarines and aircraft carriers, both Yamato and Musashi spent the majority of their careers in naval bases at Brunei, Truk, and Kure, deploying on several occasions in response to American raids on Japanese bases. All three ships were sunk by the U.S. Navy. Musashi, while participating in the Battle of Leyte Gulf in October 1944, as part of Admiral Takeo Kurita's center force, lost to American carrier aircraft. The still incomplete Shinano was torpedoed 10 days after her commissioning in November 1944 by the submarine USS Archerfish, and Yamato, also ravaged by carrier planes. In April 1945, during Operation Tengo, the design of the Yamato-class battleships was shaped by expansionist movements within the Japanese government, Japanese industrial power, and the need for a fleet powerful enough to intimidate likely adversaries, most importantly, the latter, in the form of the Kantai-Kessen or decisive battle doctrine, a naval strategy adopted by the Imperial Japanese Navy prior to the Second World War, in which the Japanese Navy would win a war by fighting and winning a single, decisive naval action. The final design called for a standard displacement of 64,000 long tons, and a full load displacement of 69,988 long tons, making the ships of the class the largest battleships yet designed, and the largest battleships ever constructed. The design called for a main armament of 9 460 mm naval guns, mounted in 3 triple-gun turrets, each of which weighed more than a 1930s-era destroyer. The designs were quickly approved by the Japanese Naval High Command, over the objections of naval aviators, who argued for the construction of aircraft carriers rather than battleships. In all, 5 Yamato-class battleships were planned. Although 5 Yamato-class vessels had been planned in 1937, only 3 2 battleships and a converted aircraft carrier were completed. All 3 vessels were built in extreme secrecy, to prevent American intelligence officials from learning of their existence and specifications. Indeed, the United States Office of Naval Intelligence only became aware of Yamato and Musashi by name in late 1942. Now, for some ships' history, Yamato was ordered in March 1937, laid down November 4, 1937, launched August 8, 1940, and commissioned December 16, 1941. She underwent training exercises until May 27, 1942, when the vessel was deemed operable by Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto. Joining the 1st Battleship Division, Yamato served as the flagship of the Japanese Combined Fleet during the Battle of Midway in June 1942, yet did not engage enemy forces during the battle. The next 2 years were spent intermittently between Truk and Kure naval bases, with her sister ship Musashi replacing Yamato as flagship of the Combined Fleet during this time period. Yamato, as part of the 1st Battleship Division, deployed on multiple occasions to counteract American carrier raids on Japanese island bases. On December 25, 1943, she suffered major torpedo damage at the hands of USS Skate, and was forced to return to Kure for repairs and structural upgrades. In 1944, following extensive anti-aircraft and secondary battery upgrades, Yamato joined the 2nd Fleet in the Battle of the Philippine Sea, serving as an escort to a Japanese carrier division in October 1944, as part of Vice Admiral Takeo Kurita's center force for the Battle of Leyte Gulf. She used her naval artillery against an enemy vessel for the only time, helping sink the American escort carrier Gambier Bay and the destroyer Johnston before she was forced away by torpedoes from Heermann, which put her out of combat lightly damaged at Kure in March 1945. The ship was then rearmed in preparation for operations. Yamato was deliberately expended in a suicide mission as part of Operation Tengo, sent to use her big guns to provide relief to Japanese forces engaged in the Battle of Okinawa. She never came close, Sunk en route on April 7, 1945 by 386 American carrier aircraft after receiving 10 torpedo and 7 bomb hits. She capsized, taking 2,498 of the 2,700 crew members with her, including Vice Admiral Seiki Ito. The sinking of Yamato was seen as a major American victory, and Hanson W. Baldwin, the military editor of the New York Times, wrote that the sinking of the new Japanese battleship Yamato is striking proof, if any were needed, of the fatal weakness of Japan in the air and at sea. Musashi was ordered in March 1937, laid down March 29, 1938, launched November 1, 1940, and commissioned August 5, 1942. From September to December 1942, she was involved in surface and air combat training exercises at Hashirahama. On February 11, 1943, Musashi relieved her sister ship Yamato as flagship of the combined fleet until July 1944. Musashi shifted between the naval bases of Truk, Yokosuka, Brunei, and Kure. On March 29, 1944, she sustained moderate damage near the bow from one torpedo fired by the American submarine Tunny. After repairs and refitting throughout April 1944, Musashi joined the 1st Battleship Division in Okinawa in June 1944. As part of the Second Fleet, the ship escorted Japanese aircraft carriers during the Battle of the Philippine Sea in October 1944. She left Brunei as part of Admiral Takeo Kurita's center force during the Battle of Leyte Gulf. Musashi was sunk 24th of October during the Battle of the Sibian Sea, taking 17 bomb and 19 torpedo hits, with the loss of 1,023 of her 2,399-man crew. On the eve of the Allies' occupation of Japan, special service officers of the Imperial Japanese Navy destroyed virtually all records, drawings, and photographs of or relating to the Yamato-class battleships, leaving only fragmentary records of the design characteristics and other technical matters. The destruction of these documents was so efficient that until 1948 the only known images of Yamato and Musashi were those taken by United States Navy aircraft involved in the attacks on the two battleships. Although some additional photographs and information, from documents that were not destroyed, have come to light over the years, the loss of the majority of written records for the class has made extensive research into the Yamato class somewhat difficult. From the time of their construction until the present day, Yamato and Musashi have carried a notable presence in Japanese culture. Yamato in particular. Upon completion, the battleships represented the epitome of Imperial Japanese naval engineering. In addition, the two ships, due to their size, speed, and power, visibly embodied Japan's determination and readiness to defend its interests against the Western powers, especially the United States. Yamato, and especially the story of her sinking, has appeared often in Japanese popular culture, such as the anime Space Battleship Yamato and the 2005 film Yamato. The appearances in popular culture usually portray the ship's last mission as a brave, selfless, but futile, symbolic effort by the participating Japanese sailors to defend their homeland. One of the reasons that the warship may have such significance in Japanese culture is that the word Yamato was often used as a poetic name for Japan. Thus, the end of the battleship Yamato could serve as a metaphor for the end of the Japanese Empire.
沈みました。ソナーに反応あり。潜水艦のようです。体感せよ。敵の潜水艦を探知しました。一つ仕留めた。攻撃されています。水準下の船体に穴が。ポンポン稼働せよ。一気撃墜。敵の潜水艦を探知しました。浸水が発生しています。敵襲を受けています。攻撃されています。敵の艦船を発見しました。船体に避難。敵襲を受けています。敵機接近を確認。 挑みました。また一つ仕留めました。浸水が発生しています。やりました。敵中隊は全滅です。敵接近を確認。水戦下の船体に穴だ。ポンプを稼働せよ。一気撃墜。敵は掃討されました。また一つ仕留めました。敵中隊は壊滅しました。敵襲を受けています。敵接近を確認。一つ仕留めた。攻撃されています。
総員配置につけ。
前方に
戦場に火災を確認。敵戦艦撃沈。